Dr. Federico Basantes, Divisional Chief, Waste and Sanitation for the Inter-American Development Bank. Mr. Christian Severin, Program Manager, International Waters, Global Environment Facility. Members of the diplomatic community, members of the interagency coordinating group, specially invited guests, colleagues, good morning. Today marks a special day in the life of the CReW project, and I'm honored on behalf of the Inter-American Development Bank and the United Nations Environment Program to welcome you most sincerely to the official launch of the project. The CReW, or should I say the Caribbean Regional Fund for Wastewater Management, commenced officially in June 2011. And in the months gone by, the focus has been on project mobilization. So today, and over the next few days of this significant milestone, with the help and the support of all our stakeholders, we'll be moving into high gear as we seek to collaborate with all the participating countries and to work towards meeting the challenging outcomes of this project. We have been delighted with the interest that has been shown by our stakeholders, strategic partners. And I'm pleased to advise you to share with you this morning that today we have 10 of the 13 participating countries present, 12 of our overseas strategic partners, and many of our local partners here in the room with us who have a strong interest in seeing the transformation of the wastewater sector. We believe that the CReW can help in that transformation. So we hope over the next few days, we will not only share information with the participants, but hear from you, because it is in and through the hearing and the listening and the discussion and the hard work that even greater innovation will be possible through this project. We're pleased that this morning, firstly, we will start hearing from key leadership in the implementing agencies, our funders, and the Honorable Minister, and who have signaled by their presence here this morning the importance that they attribute to this project. And we're really very, very happy that they could be with us this morning. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Ansel Brewster, the country representative of the Inter-American Bank. Mr. Brewster has shown tremendous support for this project, and I invite him to address us now. Please welcome him as he comes.
A warm good morning to all. Honorable Minister, Water, Land, Environment and Climate Change, the Honorable Robert Pickersgill, strategic partners, both from the Global Environmental Fund and the United Nations Environmental Program, Mr. Nelson Andrade Colmenares, coordinator of the UNEP Caribbean Regional Coordinating Unit, Christian Severin, Program Manager for International Water, Global Environmental Fund, Dr. Federico Basantes, my colleague of many, many years, Division Chief, Water and Sanitation at the Inter-American Development Bank, Ms. Denise Forrest, our Chairperson and Project Coordinator of the Caribbean Regional Fund for Wastewater Management, other distinguished guests, regional stakeholders, participants, practitioners in the area, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Such a great pleasure to be here this morning. For me, it's certainly for the Inter-American Development Bank, it's truly a remarkable event. And we're also very pleased because we're doing this in collaboration with two very significant players in the region in terms of environment and climate change, and that is the United Nations Environmental Program and the Global Environmental Fund. Of course, we're also here with very critical stakeholders, the several national and regional wastewater agencies in the region. The Caribbean is a region under threat, many threats, both from an economic point of view, in terms of the recurrence with greater frequency of serious natural disasters. We have issues of social dislocation and crime and violence in many of our territories. But for the 38 odd million persons in this region, pollution constitutes a major threat to our sustainability and prosperity. Urgent attention is therefore needed if we are to remain relevant in an increasingly competitive global environment. And our presence here this morning is fitting testimony to the seriousness with which we treat with the issues of pollution. The issue of wastewater management is really a vexing one, and it's one that not only Jamaica but all countries in the region, in the Caribbean region, silently suffer the effects of, or the lack of adequate wastewater management. I often refer to wastewater treatment and management and as the Cinderella of the infrastructure sectors. I myself have worked many years in the water and wastewater industry and had very good first-hand experience of the challenges to bring adequate attention to the issues of wastewater. Water is particularly easy to target because we all need water. We always say water is life. Somehow we allow to slip into the background what happens to this water after we've used it for these basic necessities of life and for our economic and social national development. The IDB, in collaboration with the strategic partners, the Global Environment Fund and UNEP, and many of you here this morning, have moved assiduously to target the issue of wastewater treatment. The issue of wastewater, I believe, is particularly critical in that the effects of poor or substandard wastewater management and treatment are not immediately felt. And so it evades much of the headline-grabbing reports that we see for many of the other sectors, some of which I mentioned earlier, the economic situation, crime, what other issues have we. And so wastewater tends to drift into the background. But the effects, the ill effects of poor wastewater treatment surface over the medium to long term. And indeed, when they do surface, the cost of correcting them and the time taken in correcting them is significant. Several studies have found that Caribbean coasts are under serious threat from untreated wastewater entering rivers and oceans. Reports commissioned exactly by UNEP have concluded that wastewater, untreated wastewater, is the single most serious problem contributing to regional marine pollution. Indeed, it is estimated some 85% of that wastewater enters the Caribbean waters untreated. The discharge of untreated wastewater has significant effects for our ecosystems and ultimately, we will see, for our key economic sectors. They have a deleterious effect on the many reefs that create and sustain the beaches that we are so well known for in our tourism sector. It also damages our very important wetlands, which create incredibly important nurseries for many of our fishery stocks. It also exposes us to more severe tidal surges when the hurricane comes, and indeed they do, and they are indeed coming with much more frequency than before. There are also issues of contamination of our food supply and our water supply. Untreated wastewater also proposes health costs to our societies, and of course studies will show and have shown that rises in particular types of diseases such as gastroenteritis among sea bathers are already a direct result of poor management of wastewater. Of course, we'll hear much more of this over the next 2 days, and I'm sure the other speakers will expand on these issues. Suffice it to say that preventive measures are much cheaper and much more sustainable, and the resource savings can be put to much greater use in other challenging areas of the economy. Therefore, it behooves us now to influence and rally the policy and decision makers so that adequate and appropriate funding and technical support is provided to the area of wastewater management. Partnerships are and will continue to be important to the IDB. The IDB considers itself a development partner, not only in the Caribbean region, but in Latin America as well. And that is exactly why we are partnering not only with the Global Environment Fund and with UNEP, but with national and regional agencies in providing technical help and, importantly, the financial wherewithal to construct and maintain these important facilities. However, many of our national water and wastewater commissions and authorities, and indeed governments, can't do it all alone, given the issues, as we well know, the current global economic I wanted to say crisis, but one would say situation, because indeed it's still going on. It's expected to go on for a bit. And so, apart from robust framework and performance standards for the industry, what is critical would be avenues for fostering greater cooperation, collaboration, and participation between private sector actors and government and national authorities. And in this regard, public-private partnerships are particularly useful. The IDB endorses this method of development financing, and in many other sectors, as in this, continue to provide important technical and financial wherewithal for this to happen. So as we move forward into a world that is increasingly challenged, the region is increasingly challenged in terms of creating its own well-being and its economic sustainability. Greater attention to our environment, and by extension, the way we manage our wastewater is imperative. This is a challenge that we face not only as individual countries, but as a region. The IDB is here to support you all in this endeavor, and certainly on behalf of the IDB here in Jamaica, Dr. Bassanis also will speak on behalf of the IDB. But on behalf of the IDB in Jamaica, I want to wish you all a very lively and creative debate, a vigorous knowledge exchange and success in this very important venture. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewster. You mentioned that wastewater sector was the Cinderella of many policies, but I'm very sure that in 4 years we will transform the Cinderella to a princess with all of our help here this morning. Thank you so much for your comments. The CReW is an innovative project. It's innovative in many respects, and I won't go into those details now. But one of the innovations that we've managed to pull off, I can't claim to be responsible for this, is the marriage between a bank and an environment facility. The Inter-American Development Bank and UNEP are the implementing agencies for this project. And so we'd like to invite Nelson Andrade to address us at this point.
Thank you very much, Denise. And good morning to all. Buenos días, bienvenidos a esos también que están participando aquí de habla hispana. Honorable Minister Robert Peters Gill, Minister of Water, Climate Change and Environment, and now Minister more close to us than before, because before you were the Minister of Transportation, and we had the opportunity at that time also to work together in other endeavors. Dr. Federico Bazanes, Head of IDB Water and Sanitation Division from Washington, D.C. Mr. Ansel Brewster, IDB Country Representative for Jamaica, and until finally we are able to meet. Has been playing cat and mouse for a long while, but now we have the opportunity because we are responsible for the implementation of this project. My colleague, Mr. Chris Severin, Program Specialist in YES International Water, the one that has been so supportive, particularly the Regional Sea and the Caribbean Environmental Program. Members of the CReW project, starting with Denise and her team, now located here in Jamaica and in the headquarters of the IDB. Members of the media, our friends, our colleagues. Colleagues and friends of the CReW project, and already the project is starting, but we have been able to build up some partnership, particularly with partners from all other UN agencies like UNDP and PAHO. Especially overseas participants, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the United Nations Environment Program, we are UNEP in general, and here in the Caribbean we are UNEP RRCU. That stands for the United Nations Environment Program Caribbean Regional Coordinating Unit, located by invitation of the government of Jamaica here in Kingston for a long while. I am pleased to welcome you to the launch of the JEF Caribbean Regional Fund Wastewater Management CReW project. Let me begin by extending a warm welcome and congratulations to our new host Minister of Environment here in Jamaica, Minister Peters Gill. Mr. Minister, UNEP Caribbean Environment Program, which also serves as the Secretariat for the Cartagena Convention, has had the pleasure of being hosted here in Jamaica since our office was established in 1986. And believe me that I know about that because my own government, Venezuela, was involved in the bidding and Jamaica won. And since then we have been located here in Jamaica. We are what we call the Regional Seas Program, one of the 18 Regional Seas programs around the planet that deals with the protection of the marine environment. I want to acknowledge the significant ongoing support provided by the government of Jamaica to our work. Not only here in Jamaica, but throughout the Caribbean region. And in that moment it was defined as the wider Caribbean region because it encompassed also the governments of the United States, the UK, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and France. We have already made initial contact, Minister, with the senior technical official within your ministry about our interest in meeting particularly with you and your team and providing with more detailed information about our ongoing planet programs and projects, not only in Jamaica, but in the region. Of particular relevance to this meeting is the work that we have to do asking the government for the ratification and implementation of the protocols, but in this case in particular, the protocol concerning pollution from land-based source of activities, the very well known now in the region LBS protocol, which by the way entered into force in 2010. This project, the CReW project, was designed particularly to assist governments and countries, both with the legal part or the political part that is the ratification process, but also with the implementation of the LBS protocol. In that regard, we are very well aware that Jamaica is very well advanced in the ratification process, and that is why, Minister, we look forward to meet with you and also with the rest of the countries participating in this project. So if you have not already ratified, then please do so, because by the way, part of the economical benefits will come at the moment that you ratify the protocol. The high priority afforded to wastewater management was recently reinforced at an international meeting of what is called the Global Program of Action for the Pollution Prevention regarding particular wastewater. In that regard, this meeting was held recently in Philippines, in Manila, and close to 100 governments participated in this meeting. And out of that, and in the Manila Declaration, nutrients and marine litter were identified as the 3 strategic priority areas. Wastewater, nutrients, and marine litter were identified as the 3 strategic priority areas for focus by UNEP and also by the GPA coordinating officer for the next 5 years. This will be done through the development of global partnership that will be supported by regional and national projects and activities, such as this project, the CReW project, and believe me, a lot of governments and other parts of the planet are looking at what we are going to be doing here, because within the policy of the GEF, anything that is successful will be replicated in other parts of the world. Maybe Chris will talk about that. This partnership approach is the foundation on which the CReW was developed and which must now form the basis for its successful implementation. In preparing the original project, and believe me, this proposal has been for a while, governments identify several challenges in the wastewater management sector. Therefore, I would like to highlight a few of them. I believe that one of the most important is the one that this project is going to tackle. It's going to be reviewed. It's going to be looking forward for implementation, that is the lack of investment in wastewater management. The second one is also financial. It's the difficult in obtaining affordable and sustainable sources of financing. This is what makes this project so important and also so innovative for the region. As well as inadequate policies, laws and regulations, but for that we have now the LBS protocol that will be assist governments in having that regulations and policies very clear. The lack of trained personnel, and finally the lack of awareness of alternative and appropriate treatment technologies. To be able to effectively respond to these needs, the International Development Bank, the IDB, represented here from the office in Washington, also for the regional representative of the IDB here in Jamaica. IDB and us, UNEP, agreed to partner as the project co-implementing agencies. And I believe that this is a first development that this is happening in the region. So we are quite pleased with that. And by the way, so far, this partnership is working very well. Our office here in Jamaica, UNICAR RCU, is pleased to be the project regional executing agency. We will be providing support to all the countries in capacity building, training, and information management. I would like to end these remarks by emphasizing that the CReW project belongs to you, to the countries of the region. This opportunity that we have today and the few days following, we are looking forward for your feedback, recommendations, so that activities are developed and implemented as effectively as possible, and particularly to meet your needs, the needs of your governments. And to our prospective project partners, especially from the private sector, we look forward to your active collaboration, involvement, and support for a collective effort to safeguard human health and to protect the Caribbean Sea for the continued discharge of untreated sewage. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Buenos días.
Thank you, Nelson. Dr. Federico Bassanes is the Divisional Chief of the Waste and Sanitation Division. He's traveled to from Washington to be here with us this morning. Please welcome him as he comes.
Thank you, Denise. Your Honorable Minister, Robert Pickersgill, members of the United Nations Environmental Program, colleagues from the NWC, I can see some old friends here in the room. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I will be very brief, since in the afternoon I will have the opportunity to address you all with a more complete presentation. I just wanted to take this opportunity to convey to you the idea that in a lot of ways, for a lot of people sitting here, this is a dream come true. And this is a very interesting project with many years in the making. And it's taking the tenacity of a lot of people from the Global Environmental Facility, from UNEP, and more recently from the IDB to make this happen. We are very appreciative to the government of Jamaica for hosting this meeting, but not only for that, but also for taking the leadership of supporting this program and participating actively in one of the first pilots. Why do we believe that this is such an important project? Well, Latin America and the Caribbean region, it's a part of the world where we are doing considerable progress toward the achievement of the Millennium Development Goal. We've made good investments in the access to water. We've made good investments in the access to sanitation, but we're not doing that well in wastewater treatment. Let me give you one figure for you to keep in mind, that only 15% of the wastewater that is created in Latin America and the Caribbean receives any type of treatment. Everything else goes back to the environment without any kind of treatment. And we all know that that is not good. That is not a sustainable solution. It's not atypical to visit a city, a country in Latin America and the Caribbean and see what we call dead spots, bodies of water that basically have been affected by contamination for years, with the impact on health, on development, and some of the colleagues that talked previous to me have mentioned a lot of the impact that brings around to our communities. The IDB has a long tradition of working in water and sanitation. We always like to tell the story that our first project 50 years ago was a water and sanitation project. And we've been able to help the countries of the region make some considerable progress. In 2007, we launched what we call the Water and Sanitation Initiative, and since then we've been providing approximately $1.5 billion of financing and donations exclusively for water and sanitation. But wastewater wastewater is always a challenge. Okay? And there are several countries in the Caribbean and in the rest of Latin America that have been doing in the last few years very steady progress. Okay? But it's not enough. And why is it so difficult? Well, it's difficult because it's expensive, it takes long-term investment, it takes long-term dedication, it takes know-how, it takes the right legal and regulatory framework, and these are all challenges that are not difficult to resolve. And some of our colleagues were saying before that sometimes it's easier to focus on clean water than to focus on wastewater management. And even though we have financial resources, we're working on knowledge development, we're working on know-how, capacity building, we all felt that we still needed an instrument that was tailor-made for the Caribbean, that could help us learn, that could help us test different ways of doing things, because this is not a problem that is going to be solved by the government by itself, by a development institution, by the UNEP or the Global Environmental Facility. This is a problem that is only going to be solved if we can pool all these resources together, including the private sector. So for us, it was very important to have a mechanism that would allow us to test financial solutions, that would allow us to leverage resources from other places to help resolve this problem. And this is what's unique about this program. It will allow us in fairly small programs to learn, to test what works from a financial point of view, and more importantly, to disseminate those lessons learned. You will see that there is a strong component in this program of dissemination of know-how. From us, from the IDB point of view, it would allow us to replicate in some of the larger programs that we have, even in the Caribbean, some of the lessons learned from the CReW project. And most of the countries that are sitting here today, we're working with you, we have fairly large programs, and we will all benefit from what we learn from this experience. So I would like to end these words confirming the IDB enthusiasm, long-term view of these projects. We would like to be here to participate in this, to implement the solutions that come out of this, and continue being your long-term partnership for the solution of this problem. We dare to envision a region with universal access to water and sanitation, where all our wastewater gets treated, and that is done at a fair price that everybody can afford. Thank you very much.
Share with you the details of the project as we hear from you. But Federico says that this is a dream that has come true, and much is left to be done. But suffice to say that we needed help in getting this dream done, and our funder, the Global Environment Facility, has certainly helped to make the dream a reality today. The GEF has allocated since 1990 over $1.1 billion to the international water sector to address the challenges of freshwater and marine ecosystems. And we're really delighted that Christian Severin, who is the program manager for the GEF, is here with us this morning. I invite him now to come.
Thank you so much for the invitation and the morning. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, today is indeed a happy day for me. This is a day I've been looking forward to for nearly 6 years. The day that the Caribbean Revolving or Regional Fund for Wastewater Management would finally have its inception. It's been a long and interesting journey. I recall back in 2006 when we first started talking about this CReW, or whatever we were going to call it, as a GEF-funded initiative at a spa meeting in Montego Bay here in Jamaica. We had some very interesting discussions following this meeting, which then was followed up with multiple meetings with IDB, UNEP, who in turn have had all the deliberations with the recipient countries of this investment into a suite of low-tech and innovative technologies for wastewater treatment solutions, including constructed wetlands and other solutions that are not widely applied here in the Caribbean region, using financial instruments such as revolving fund modalities. And it is this mix of testing a range of financial non-grant instruments in conjunction with testing a suite of low-tech solutions that is so unique about this CReW project. As mentioned before, actually CRew's common ground that we in the Jeff International Waters portfolio so far has only sparingly been exploring around the world. CReW hopefully will be instrumental in setting new standards on how to couple innovative financing with low-tech solutions. We are very proud at the Jeff to be a player in catalyzing this important process of utility reforms in the Caribbean region through investments such as the CReW and the newly closed IWCAM. They are both important projects where national governments are driving the process of pollution reduction of land-based sources of marine pollution. These are the kind of investments that will carry the Caribbean region forward, not only as a leader among SIDS, but also as a region in the world where the countries have chosen to focus on the immense important steps of targeting pollution reaching the Caribbean seas, which, as you know, is both the center for supporting artisanal fisheries, local communities' health, as well as the focal point for tourism industry, which in many Caribbean nations are an important source of income. The Jeff is looking forward to see this suite of low-tech solutions that in other regions have proven to be associated with low operational and maintenance costs coming out of the CReW. Jeff experience have so far proven that it could be a problem for smaller and medium-sized communities and cities to sustain large costs of running and maintaining these systems. However, the CReW is not only the intent to entirely focus on the low-tech scenario, it's also to get a right mix of smaller, medium and larger towns and cities to a range of financing models. Wastewater treatment is a subject that historically has had to give priorities to supply of fresh water. It was called the little system before investments. It could also just be, it simply has been a very low priority. Freshwater and other infrastructure investment has been a higher priority. However, wastewater treatment requires a constant investment from governments, both in terms of capacity building, supporting policy work, and infrastructure investments. Implementation of the CReW is therefore a strong commitment from all the Caribbean countries that wastewater is an issue that requires continuous attention and that you and your countries will be doing this. Some of you may be aware, we were just reminded by Nelson Andrade, that 2 weeks ago in Manila, the Global Program of Action for the Protection of Marine, Environment and Land-Based Activities adopted the Manila Declaration that mentioned wastewater and nutrient management as 2 of the 3 focus areas. Again, the Caribbean region is the front runner in tackling these problems, not only identified locally and regionally, but also as a core problem globally. I really congratulate you for doing that. It's fantastic to be here in Jamaica for the Inception meeting, not only to explore the beautiful country. You see I have a little tan. I sneaked up to Port Antonio for a few days enjoying that. But also to benefit from the hospitality of the Jamaican government. And moreover, it actually connects the dots, if I may say so, the Inception meeting and now the initial talks with the Inception. It's truly a pleasure. Honourable Minister, I thank you for your hospitality and for the invitation to speak today. I wish you and your colleagues in Jamaica and all the Caribbean countries the best of luck in implementing the CReW. Friends and colleagues, ahead of us lies interesting years of implementing the CReW and its national demos and investments. It's our hope that we, from the Global Environment Facility, based on the success of this phase, with its testing of financial instruments and low-tech solutions, may be able to explore further funding for the Caribbean region of these kind of efforts. Thank you so much for taking on this important project.
I'd like to adopt as my own the salutations and greetings offered by you, but perhaps I would be remiss if I did not in particular mention the presence of my permanent secretary, members of my ministry from the various sectors. I will not particularize, they know who they are, and of course, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. We have heard very interesting phrases like Cinderella of the water sector, and a dream come true, and finally, more to come. If I were to use a cricket analogy, Madam Chairperson, I'm the fifth batsman, and a lot of runs on the board. So, you know, I might turn out to be the night watchman as well. And because I'm the fifth batsman, there might be some repetition, so you must forgive me. And I do not want to be criticized by my friend Mr. Michael Shaw that I came up here to repeat what was already said. I'm also reminded for my address to be immortal, it doesn't have to be eternal. and that really it will be measured by its donation rather than its duration. A very warm welcome to all participants of this workshop, whether you are from here or from abroad. However, special welcome is extended to those of you who are visiting our shores for the first time. I know your schedule is tight, but already you have gone off to Portland. But I hope that you'll find some time to relax and enjoy some of what our island has to offer while you're here. They say it's better in the Bahamas, but we in Jamaica say it's best in Jamaica. So enjoy it. It is my pleasure to address this official launch of what I consider to be a very worthwhile and welcome initiative. The Global Environment Facility Caribbean Regional Fund for Wastewater Management, as you have heard, GEF and CReW project. The development of this project involves some very careful planning, resulting in an integrated approach to solving a big problem: the management of waste water. And you heard the many reminiscences of the various speakers. Of course, I am not in a position to reminisce, I'm really anticipating. As I said, the development of this project involves some very careful planning, resulting in an integrated approach to solving a big problem, the management of wastewater. Regarding the impact of wastewater on the environment, where and how our water is sourced, treated, and distributed, how we treat with waste, and our usage of the land all have a profound impact on the environment. Pollutants comprise one of the most significant threats to the coastal and marine systems of the region, on which a number of countries are heavily dependent. I am sure that we'll all agree that pollution accompanies most human activities. But the problem is exacerbated by poorly planned developments, as well as wastewater treatment facilities that are inadequate to handle the volume of domestic, agricultural, and industrial discharge produced by rapidly growing populations. Very often, what ends up in our seas begins far inland. Practices such as the removal of river water for irrigation, the cutting of forests and degradation of our watersheds, the use of chemicals in agriculture, atmospheric emissions from factories and automobiles, sewage discharges into rivers, and the pollution of our underground water sources take place many kilometers away from the seashore, but they all impact profoundly on human health and marine life. As you have already heard, various studies on marine pollution globally and in the region have concluded that pathogenic organisms in waters contaminated by wastewater discharges cause, and I quote, massive transmissions of infectious diseases to bathers, and of course swimmers, and consumers of raw and undercooked shellfish, end of quote. And that sewage was one of the main factors that caused some 80% of living coral in the Caribbean to be lost over the past 20 years. The Global Program of Action for the Production of Marine Environment from Land-Based Activities, referred to as the GPA of the United Nations Environment Program, estimates that as much as 85% of wastewater entering the Caribbean Sea is currently untreated. And you heard that from Mr. Brewster as well, but it is worthy of repetition. 85% of the wastewater entering the Caribbean Sea is currently untreated. Indeed, Madam Chairperson, according to the Pan American Health Organization, 2001, 51.5% of households in the Caribbean region lack sewer connections of any kind, and only 17% of households are connected to acceptable collection and treatment systems. Within Caribbean countries, less than 2% of urban sewage is treated before disposal, and the figure, unfortunately, is even lower for rural communities. I think those statistics speak volumes. It stands to reason, therefore, that there is an urgent need to increase the coverage of wastewater treatment in the Caribbean, which at present is far below needed levels. Given that, and I quote, the Caribbean is the region in the world most dependent on tourism for jobs and income, end of quote. Indeed, in addition to the environmental impact, damage by untreated wastewater to the marine environment can result in severe social and economic consequences for people in the region. Regarding the challenges to wastewater provision, in the 2006 State of the Marine Environment Report, UNEP and GPA, states that there are significant financial constraints and a lack of adequate affordable financing available for investments in wastewater management in the wider Caribbean region. Other challenges include inadequate national policies, laws and regulations, limited enforcement of existing laws and regulations, other limitations in technical capacity, example in developing project proposals, operating and maintaining wastewater treatment systems, and monitoring and analyzing wastewater discharges and impacts. In recent years, regional efforts aimed at protecting the marine environment resulted in the preparation in 1999 of the protocol concerning pollution from land-based sources and activities, as you have already heard referred to as the LBS protocol, to the Convention for the Protection and Development of the Marine Environment of the wider Caribbean region. I speak of the Cartagena Convention. Several activities have taken place through the programs implemented by the Regional Coordinating Unit of the Caribbean Environment Program. The LBS protocol came into effect in 2010, and it is my intention for Jamaica to become a party to that protocol in short order. I expected an applause. Countries of the region must begin to prioritize the development of innovative financial mechanisms, and affordable resources must be made available to assist in establishing or expanding domestic wastewater management programs and policies. Regarding the aims, we therefore welcome the Caribbean Regional Fund for Wastewater Management. we sincerely welcome you. And it being officially launched today with funding from the Global Environment Facility and of course CReW. And they aim to provide sustainable financing for the wastewater sector, support policy and legislative reform, and foster regional dialogue and knowledge exchange among key stakeholders in the wider Caribbean. The 4-year project is receiving support from the Inter-American Development Bank, as you have already heard, and the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, which will be co-implementers. The first component of the program involves investment and innovative financing for wastewater management to the tune of some $15 million, which is financed by the Inter-American Development Bank. The component would finance $13 million for individual pilot financing mechanisms, PFM, that will provide and test pilot financing modalities for wastewater management projects. Some $1 million for a project development support, referred to as PDS, to provide technical assistance such as design assistance, to bring the first generation of projects to be financed by the PFNs, to a bankable status, and just over $1 million for strengthening the technical capacity at the pilot level. The activities under this component will be complemented by activities financed under the IDB Water and Sanitation Initiative for Wastewater Management in the countries that endorse the CReW. The total estimated value allocated to wastewater projects in the participating countries is estimated at approximately $221 million. As you may know, Jamaica is one of 4 countries chosen to test individual pilot financing mechanisms with the aim of providing financing modalities for wastewater management projects. The others are Belize, Trinidad and Tobago, and Barbados. CReW is currently providing credit enhancement support for local commercial bank financing of 11 wastewater projects in Jamaica to be executed by the National Water Commission. Under the proposed structure, the CReW funds will be pledged to local lenders as collateral for the financing of approximately $7 million in initial wastewater projects. Currently, a K-factor surcharge is collected through the water bill and is allocated into a special account for wastewater investment projects. As the K-factor funds are collected on a monthly basis, rather than using the K-factor funds directly for capital investments, the funds can be better used as debt servicing for larger commercial bank loans. In order to incentivize the commercial banks to lend to the NWC, the CReW funds will be placed into a reserve account and will act as a secondary assurance to commercial lenders in the event that the flow of K-factor funds should become temporarily unavailable. I am pleased that Jamaica is poised to take advantage of the CReW project following work completed in 2003 under the Coastal Water Quality Project funded by USAID. Several areas were identified for attention, including the effluent standards and qualification of operators, and that is very, very important. As a result, from the original public health standards, new standards for sewage effluent discharge, including nutrients, have been developed. This will allow Jamaica to comply with standards for Class 1 and 2 waters under the LBS protocol. The wastewater and sludge regulations, which should be finalized by the end of this quarter, will also address the design of sewage treatment plants and will be based on the polluter pays principle, This means that the annual discharge fee charge will be based on the annual loading of the effluent. The regulations will also promote beneficial reuse of treated effluent and sludge for applications such as irrigation of our horticultural areas and recharge of our aquifers. The wastewater regulations will be complemented by regulations in septage being developed by the Ministry of Health. And I see the professor here, Professor Dr. Winston Davison. The National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, is now in the process of developing a web-based pollutant release and transfer register, which will make available to the public information on all plants, including the historical conditions, present status, rehabilitation exercises, breaches, enforcement actions, among other things. The permits will be issued under the Natural Resources Conservation Authority, NRC Act, for the discharge of effluent and the construction, operation, and maintenance of plants. It had been proposed some time ago that this is sewage master plan be developed for Jamaica to be spearheaded by NEPA and supported by the Water Resources Authority and the Environmental Health Unit. And this has to be correct because I see Basil here and I see Peter here. I believe, if any problems, ask them, don't ask me. I believe that this matter should be revisited as it will be extremely useful for the development of Jamaica. In the other three countries, initiatives include a zero-interest loan to the National Housing Corporation, NHC, of Barbados to lower the cost of wastewater treatment solutions in housing developments. Support for the Water and Sewage Authority, WASA, of Trinidad and Tobago for the development of wastewater solutions for developments. An intermunicipal wastewater system for the peninsula of Plansanicia in Belize, I hope I got that right, and a lease arrangement for wastewater treatment solutions. I take the opportunity to congratulate these three other countries who are involved. I'm sure you're just as committed as we are to the objectives of the CReW project. I welcome and fully appreciate the efforts of the funding agencies, the commitment of all the implementers, and the anticipated rigorous efforts of those charged in monitoring the project. I wish I could describe it as a cheap enterprise. I assure you that I stand fully supportive of the agencies under my ministry, which are involved in the project, and by extension pledge the full support of the government of Jamaica to this project. In the words of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I quote, "The time is always right to do what is right," end of quote. I therefore take pleasure in launching the Global Environment Facility Caribbean Regional Fund for Wastewater Management, GEF and CReW project. And before I end, I must tell you that when I report to the Prime Minister, because she's more than ordinarily interested in these matters, I will indicate to her that when I was finished, you gave me a big round of applause.
Your name it.
My name is Federico Basañez, and I'm the Division Chief for the Water and Sanitation Division at the Inter-American Development Bank.
Interesting prospect here, but seem to be way behind the curveball here with only a small amount of water being treated in the Caribbean. What's the significance of this program?
Well, we believe this program is going to be a game changer, if you will. It's going to allow us to test interesting solutions to give the push for the sector to achieve universal access and treatment of all the wastewater that we create.
All right. The IDB Jamaica. Jamaica's been chosen as one of the areas, the significance of this to Jamaican IDB.
Very important. As you know, the IDB is the largest multilateral financier to Jamaica. We consider ourselves the premier development partner in Jamaica. We have recently signed a $133 million loan in water. And so, as I indicated earlier, we can not only deal with water, but we have to deal with the water at its use, wastewater. And so we're very proud to be part of this. We're financing other schemes within the region. And we consider this really an important part of our activities here in Jamaica.
guess I'll ask you to give me your name now and your title.
Yes, indeed. I'm Ansel Brewster. I'm the country representative of the Intermortal Development Bank here in Jamaica. Thank you so much.
Yes, your name and titles.
Nelson Andrade, the coordinator of the Caribbean Environmental Program located here in Kingston, Jamaica, of the United Nations Environment Program.
I have an additional one. How do you spell your last name?
Andrade, Andrade.
Your role and the significance of this project to your organization.
Implementing agency. We have been discussing this with me and my colleague from the JEF and lately with the IDB, and this is a unique model that we are going to be implemented here in the Caribbean region. As you can see, needs with the money and the social component now of the bankers looking after the well-being of the population in the region. Unique, my friend. This is going to be something that we are going to be very well involved because it could be a lot of meaning for the sustainability economic of the wider Caribbean region.
Very well. Mr. Minister. Oh, well, you just took away my question. All right, that's all. No, I'll have you first. You read out some chilling figures.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even want to go to the beach anymore, drink water anymore, or anything, because it's the significance of this program. In the scheme of things, tell me about it.
Of the utmost importance. Michael, you know, one of the things I've found since assuming this particular office and portfolio is the fact that a lot of Jamaicans do not know or understand what is happening in terms of wastewater. The whole business of the disposal of sewage, solid waste, anything at all. Regulations that exist are not utilized, and several are to come into being. And certainly one of the aspirations of this new portfolio is initially to educate Jamaicans. Due to weather-related damage on an annual basis, we're talking about $14 billion every year. You saw they say we're due for a mammoth earthquake. Remember in Haiti, in 35 seconds, just under 300,000 persons died. So if I'm really going to do anything in this ministry, and we have received a lot of commendation for the fact that climate change is now part of the naming of a ministry. And we're going to endeavor our utmost to see to that Jamaicans become more aware. But because it is so important, but as you heard, wastewater is the Cinderella of the water sector. Because nobody likes to deal with sewage or wastewater. And you just treat it any old way. But as you heard from the statistics, if you do not do something, it will affect us socially, the tourism, the coastal reefs. So, you know, we're going to do it, and you'll be hearing much more from me in the not too distant future.
Thank you, sir. I have you down as Robert Prickesley, right, Minister? Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. You didn't identify. You got him all right? Yes. Can I ask you to identify your name and your organization, sir?
Yes, my name is Christian Severin. I work with the Global Environment Facility, International Waters Program Manager there.
I heard you say it's a dream come true. I can understand all the meetings over these last 6 years and what have you. Give me a sense of your feeling and in nuts and bolts, what it will mean to the average man on the street.
Well, this is going to be a game changer, I think, because we are going to be able to focus, $20 million may sound like a lot of money, but if we can actually change the way and the behavior, maybe even have utility reforms, then it's going to mean, hopefully in a few years in Jamaica and other countries, we will see the average person, like you said before, you can actually go down and swim without getting any diseases. We need to focus on this. It has been, and it's very hard to do when you have a system up running, you have a city built. Then how do you do utility possible? It's been done in other countries. We just need to get the right understanding, and it's not only about changing the politicians only. We need to change the way I behave as a vacationer here, or how my countrymen that lives up in maybe in Portland or in any other place in the Caribbean, how do they act? How do they deal with the sewage, the solid waste? I mean, it's very simple mechanisms. There was a very successful project here that just stopped a few months ago called IWCAM with UNEP as implementation agency. And they managed to do a big change in Drivers River's watershed just by simple things, simple mechanisms. It's possible, and this will actually be very, very important for this region.
You mentioned low maintenance. In other words, what exactly is that?
I think for this project, the way I see CReW is it's very interesting because we are coupling innovative financing mechanisms with low-cost technologies. So it could be technologies that you maybe use something like constructive wetlands. Simple stuff. You use the plants that are out there to clean the wastewater. It's very simple. Low cost and low maintenance. I want something, I mean, in my dream, it would be possible that any little community, 20 people up to 2,000 people, can have a system that can treat the wastewater. Because it's just as important in the little bay as it is in the huge bay. And that's why I want that. I mean, that would be my dream. If we can get that, then I hope that, then I can see that it's going to be sustainable for the Caribbean, and the Caribbean is going to be a world leader in this. Not only in this Caribbean region, but I mean, we would implement all the successes from this place, maybe in the Pacific states, maybe in the African states. I mean, there's many other regions dealing with the same issues.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.